Life often feels like a garden where flowers want to bloom, yet weeds and stones around them stop their growth. In the same way, each one of us has a beautiful potential within, waiting to flourish. But many times, we remain stuck because of fears, doubts, and limitations, both external and internal. Growth is not about avoiding challenges, it's about rising above them. Like a tree that grows higher despite storms, we too can grow beyond what holds us back. The key is not to wait for life to become easier, but to become stronger, wiser, and deeper from within. Growth is a choice, not a gift. When we stop blaming circumstances and start cultivating resilience, we discover that nothing can truly chain us except our own mindset. We often live our lives believing we are ordinary, powerless, and incapable of facing what life throws at us. But have you ever noticed how a tiny seed, so small that it could slip through your fingers, contains the power to grow into a towering tree that can withstand storms, provide shade, and bear fruits for generations? That same principle applies to us. Within every human being lies an untapped strength, waiting for the right moment of awakening. Yet, most of us spend our lives doubting our own potential, thinking we are too weak, too broken, or too unprepared to rise. The truth is, life doesn't demand that we be extraordinary from the start. It only asks us to discover what is already inside us. Just as a diamond is hidden deep within layers of coal, our strength is often hidden beneath layers of fear, self-doubt, and insecurity. We see ourselves as fragile glass, but in reality, we are more like steel, flexible, resilient, and unbreakable when tested. But the steel doesn't know its own strength until it faces fire. Similarly, you don't realize how powerful you are until you face the heat of challenges. Think about the times in your own life when you thought you couldn't go on anymore, but somehow you did. Maybe it was a personal loss, a financial crisis, a broken relationship, or even a health struggle. In those moments, you felt like your world was collapsing, yet here you are, standing, breathing, and still moving forward. That's proof of your inner strength. If you were truly weak, you wouldn't have made it this far. Life has already tested you many times, and each time you survived, you unknowingly revealed the hidden reserves of courage inside you. The problem is not that we lack strength, it is that we fail to recognize it. A lion that forgets it is a lion will live in fear like a sheep. When you underestimate yourself, you allow external circumstances to dictate your worth. But when you begin to see yourself as capable, when you start trusting that you are more than your struggles, life transforms. You stop being a victim of your problems and become the victor who grows beyond them. Imagine a bird sitting on a branch. It doesn't trust the branch to hold it. It trusts its wings to fly. That's how life works. Don't place your trust in things outside of you, your job, your possessions, or even the approval of others. These branches can break at any time. Your real strength lies in your inner wings. The qualities of courage, resilience, creativity, and faith. When you trust your wings, you don't fear falling because you know you can always rise again. Recognizing your inner strength also means not comparing your journey with someone else's. A cactus and a lotus are both strong in their own way. One survives in the desert, the other blossoms in muddy waters. Your strength may not look like someone else's, but it is exactly what you need for your unique journey. The danger lies in dismissing your gifts because they don't look like another's. When you realize your strength, even obstacles become opportunities. Life's challenges stop being a wall and start becoming a staircase. Every trial you overcome adds another layer to your character, another dimension to your resilience. And the beautiful truth is, the more you use your strength, the stronger it becomes. Like muscles that grow through exercise, inner strength grows through practice. So, whenever you feel weak, remember you are not weak. You are simply unaware of your strength. Like a seed that carries within it the blueprint of a mighty tree, you too carry within you everything you need to rise, to grow, and to inspire. One of the heaviest burdens people carry in life is the weight of their past failures. We replay old mistakes in our minds again and again, as if reliving them will somehow change the outcome. But the truth is, every time we hold on to yesterday's defeats, we rob ourselves of today's strength and tomorrow's possibilities. Failure is never meant to be a life sentence. It is only a lesson, a teacher that comes to shape us, not to imprison us. Yet many remain shackled by regrets, unable to move forward because they are stuck staring backward. Think of a person driving a car. The rearview mirror is important. It helps us see what's behind. But if we keep looking at the mirror instead of the road ahead, we will crash. In the same way, reflecting on the past is valuable, but living in it is dangerous. Failures are not chains. They are footprints. They remind us of where we have been, but they are not meant to dictate where we must stay. Consider the story of Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before successfully inventing the light bulb. If he had allowed those failures to define him, the world might still be in darkness. What separated him from others was not that he failed less, but that he didn't cling to those failures. He used each one as a stepping stone, a reminder that progress is built not on perfection, but on persistence. Each failure whispered to him, "Not this way," until he discovered the right way. Our lives are no different. The exams we didn't pass, the relationships that didn't last, the opportunities we missed, they are all part of the process. But when we keep reliving those moments, we close our eyes to the opportunities standing in front of us now. Growth requires detachment. It is not about forgetting your past. It is about refusing to be defined by it. Every failure carries a hidden treasure of wisdom. The pain you felt was not in vain. It was preparing you for something greater. Yet, many miss this gift because they choose to nurture regret instead of reflection. Regret says, "I should have done better," while reflection asks, "What can I learn to do better?" The first keeps you chained, the second sets you free. Think of an archer. When an arrow misses the target, he doesn't break down in despair. He adjusts his aim, refines his technique, and tries again. Failure doesn't mean the target is impossible. It simply means the current approach wasn't right. In the same way, your past mistakes are not signs of your inability. They are guides pointing toward a better version of you. The lotus flower is another example. It grows in muddy water, yet its petals remain untouched by dirt. Your failures are the mud, but your growth is the lotus. Just because your environment was messy doesn't mean you cannot rise clean, strong, and beautiful. The mud may be your history, but it doesn't have to be your destiny. To detach from past failures is to forgive yourself. Too often, we offer compassion to others, but deny it to ourselves. We must realize that mistakes are proof we tried, and trying is always nobler than never beginning. The real failure is not falling, it is refusing to rise again. So, each time your past whispers your mistakes to you, remind yourself that you are not the same person who made them. You are wiser, stronger, and more aware now. The person you were back then did the best they could with the knowledge they had. Today you stand taller because of those lessons. Your failures do not define you, they refine you. And once you detach from them, you free yourself to embrace the life that still waits for you ahead. Change is perhaps the most natural thing in life, yet it is also the thing we resist the most. Seasons change, the sun rises and sets, rivers flow, and tides shift. Nature constantly transforms, yet when life demands that we too change, we hesitate. We hold tightly to the familiar, even when it no longer serves us, because the unknown feels frightening. But the truth is, without change, there can be no growth. A caterpillar that refuses change will never discover the wings of a butterfly. The fear of change often comes from our desire for control. We feel safe in routines, in predictability, in knowing what tomorrow might look like. But life is not meant to be lived in the comfort of certainty. It is meant to be experienced through the adventure of transformation. When we resist change, we are like a seed refusing to break open. It wants to remain whole, safe, and intact, yet unless it breaks, it can never sprout into a plant. The very breaking is what makes it grow. Think about how we outgrow the clothes we wore as children. At the time, they fit us perfectly, but as we grew, they became tight, uncomfortable, and limiting. We never cried about letting them go because we understood we had outgrown them. In the same way, certain habits, relationships, jobs, or ways of thinking may have once been right for us, but they are no longer meant for the person we are becoming. The fear comes when we cling to what is shrinking us instead of embracing what can expand us. History is filled with people who embraced change and transformed the world. Imagine if great inventors, leaders, or thinkers had refused to adapt. They stepped into the unknown, trusting that change held something greater. And we too have that same opportunity every day. Change is not the enemy, It is the invitation. It is life's way of whispering, there is more in you than you realize. Yes, change is uncomfortable. Leaving behind the known always is. But discomfort is not destruction. It is the soil in which growth takes root. Think of the gym. Every time you stretch a muscle, it feels uncomfortable, even painful. But that very discomfort is the reason the muscle grows stronger. In the same way, life stretches us through change, asking us to grow beyond our limitations. The real question is not whether change will come, but how we will respond when it does. Some people resist it, staying stuck in situations that suffocate them because they are afraid of the unknown. Others embrace it, walking forward with faith, knowing that growth always requires leaving something behind. The river does not flow by clinging to the rocks. It moves by letting go and finding its course. When we shift our perspective, we begin to see that change is not loss, but transformation. The caterpillar loses its form, but gains wings. The seed loses its shell, but gains roots and leaves. You may lose something familiar, but what you gain will always carry you closer to your true potential. The challenge is to trust that process, even when you cannot see the outcome yet. Life does not wait for us to be ready. It keeps moving, transforming, and evolving. The sooner we align ourselves with this truth, the sooner we realize that change is not to be feared but embraced. For within every change lies a hidden promise, the chance to become more than you were yesterday. So often, when life doesn't go the way we want, our first instinct is to try to change everything outside of us. We want people to behave differently, circumstances to align in our favor, and problems to disappear. But the truth is, the world will never bend perfectly to our desires. The waves of life are unpredictable. The winds of situations change without warning. If our peace depends on controlling the world, we will live in constant frustration. The real power lies not in controlling what happens outside, but in mastering what happens inside our mind, our thoughts, and our responses. Think of a sailor at sea. He cannot command the waves to stop or the storms to vanish, but he can adjust his sails, steer his boat wisely, and keep his composure no matter how rough the ocean becomes. In the same way, we cannot stop challenges, disappointments, or changes in life. But we can control how we think about them, how we react, and how we choose to move forward. That inner control is the essence of true strength. Our mind is like a lens through which we see the world. If the lens is dirty, cracked, or unclear, everything outside will appear distorted. But if the lens is clean and calm, even the storms look manageable. Many times, what troubles us is not the event itself, but the story our mind tells us about it. Two people can go through the same difficulty, yet one sees it as a stepping stone, while the other sees it as the end. The difference is not in the situation, but in the state of the mind. Consider a man stuck in traffic. One person might get angry, honk, and curse the delay, making himself miserable. Another might use the same time to listen to music, reflect, or simply stay calm. The traffic didn't change. It was the same for both, but their minds created two entirely different experiences. This is the power of mental control. It changes how we live through the unavoidable. When we let our mind run wild, it becomes our master. Worries, fears, and negativity take over, and we feel trapped in our own thoughts. But when we train our mind, we become its master. We can choose to respond with calmness instead of panic, with patience instead of anger, with clarity instead of confusion. And every time we choose wisely, we strengthen the mind's ability to remain steady amidst chaos. Think about the mountain. Storms can rage around it, winds can beat against it, but it stands unmoved, rooted deeply in the earth. That is how the mind should be, anchored, steady, unshaken. The world will always have storms, but if we control our inner world, we remain unbroken. The challenge is that mastering the mind requires daily practice. Just like physical fitness comes from consistent exercise, mental fitness comes from training our thoughts. Whether through reflection, prayer, meditation, or simply mindful pauses in the day, we must teach the mind to slow down, to focus, and to respond instead of react. Over time, the restless chatter of the mind quiets, and what remains is a sense of peace that nothing outside can disturb. True freedom is not in changing everything around you. It is in mastering the way you experience it. When the mind is calm, life becomes easier, even in difficulty. When the mind is restless, life feels heavy, even in moments of ease. Control your mind, and the world outside no longer has the power to control you. One of the most unnoticed chains that hold people back in life is the influence of negative company. We often underestimate how much the people around us shape our thoughts, our moods, and ultimately, our destiny. Just as a healthy plant can wither if placed in toxic soil, a strong mind can weaken if constantly surrounded by negativity. Who we walk with determines how far and in which direction we go. And sometimes, the bravest step in growth is not moving forward. It is stepping away from those who keep pulling us back. There are people who drain energy with constant complaints, criticism, and doubt. They see problems in every possibility, and instead of lifting others, they anchor them down. Spending too much time with such voices begins to affect us unconsciously. Their fears become our fears, their doubts creep into our confidence, and their bitterness shades our joy. Without realizing, we begin to see life through their lens of limitation. That is why breaking free from negative people is not about arrogance. It is about survival. Imagine a bird trying to fly with a heavy stone tied to its wings. No matter how strong the wings are, the stone will weigh it down. Negative company is that stone. Unless you let it go, your flight will always feel impossible. Growth requires lightness, and that comes from choosing to be with people who inspire, encourage, and uplift, rather than those who suffocate your spirit. This does not mean we should hate or despise those who are negative. In fact, compassion teaches us to understand that their negativity often comes from their own pain, fears, or disappointments. But compassion does not mean you must allow yourself to sink with them. You can love someone, wish them well, and still choose to protect your own peace by keeping distance. Just as a lifeguard cannot save another person if he himself is drowning, you cannot grow if you are constantly drained by those around you. Think about how contagious a smile is. When someone genuinely smiles, it can lift your mood almost instantly. But negativity is equally contagious, perhaps even more. One person's constant complaints can poison the atmosphere of an entire room. That's why being selective about the company you keep is not selfish, it is wise. The people you surround yourself with are either fuel for your growth or fire that burns your spirit. There's a saying that if you walk with 5 wise people, you'll become the 6th. But if you walk with 5 complainers, you'll also become the 6th. We cannot escape the influence of our environment, but we can choose which environment we allow ourselves to live in. Seek out people who challenge you to rise, who remind you of your strengths when you forget, and who celebrate your growth instead of resenting it. At the same time, reflect honestly. Are you someone else's negative influence? Growth also means checking our own words, our own energy, and our own impact on others. It is easy to complain, but it takes strength to inspire. Just as you want to be free from negativity, strive to be someone who spreads positivity. Breaking free from negative people is an act of courage. It is the decision to honor your own growth, to value your peace, and to protect your journey from unnecessary anchors. Life is too short to spend it surrounded by those who dim your light. The world needs your brightness, your growth, and your potential. And to rise into that, you must sometimes let go of those who cannot see beyond their own shadows. When we think of growth, most of us imagine progress as something smooth, uplifting, and inspiring. Yet in reality, growth is often uncomfortable. It stretches us, tests us, and pushes us beyond what feels safe. That is why many people never reach their true potential. They run away the moment life feels uneasy. But the truth is, discomfort is not a sign that you are failing. It is often the very evidence that you are growing. Think about how muscles are built. When you lift weights, the muscle fibers experience tiny tears. It sounds painful, even destructive, but it is that very tearing that makes the muscles rebuild themselves stronger. Without the discomfort of stretching and resistance, the body would never grow in strength. In the same way, the soul, the mind, and the character are strengthened through the discomfort of challenges. Most of us spend our lives searching for comfort zones, places where everything feels predictable, safe, and easy. And for a while, these zones give us rest. But if we stay too long, they turn into cages. Comfort zones may keep us safe, but they also keep us small. The butterfly would never learn to fly if it remained inside the cocoon. The seed would never rise into a tree if it refused to break apart in the soil. Every stage of transformation requires a moment of struggle, a season of discomfort. that unlocks a higher version of ourselves. Discomfort has a way of revealing who we truly are. When everything is going well, it's easy to appear strong, patient, and kind. But when things get hard, when plans fall apart, when uncertainty clouds the way, that's when our true strength is tested. It is in the heat of discomfort that courage, resilience, and perseverance are forged. Without these moments, we would never know the depth of our own capacity. Consider the story of the pearl. A pearl is formed when a tiny grain of sand enters the shell of an oyster. This irritates the oyster, creating discomfort. Instead of rejecting the grain, the oyster covers it with layers over time, turning the irritation into something beautiful, a pearl. In the same way, life's irritations and struggles can become treasures if we choose to embrace them and grow through them rather than resist them. Yet embracing discomfort does not mean enjoying pain or seeking suffering. It means understanding that challenges are part of the process and facing them with the right perspective. Too often, we waste energy resisting reality, wishing life were easier. But growth begins when we shift the question from, why is this happening to me? To, what is this teaching me? That simple shift transforms discomfort from an enemy into a teacher. Every great achievement in life carries the fingerprints of discomfort. Think of someone learning a new skill, whether playing an instrument, mastering a sport, or starting a business. The beginning is always awkward, clumsy, and filled with mistakes. But those who endure the discomfort of the early stages eventually rise to excellence. Those who quit because it felt too hard never discover the joy on the other side of persistence. Life will always present us with challenges that stretch us beyond our limits. Instead of running from them, embrace them as invitations to grow. Discomfort is not a punishment. It is preparation. Just as fire refines gold, life's discomfort refines us into stronger, wiser, and more resilient beings. And once we accept this truth, we begin to see every challenge not as a roadblock, but as a stepping stone to a higher version of ourselves. Pain is one of life's most universal experiences. Everyone, no matter their age, background, or wealth, encounters it in different forms: loss, rejection, betrayal, failure, or disappointment. Yet while pain is universal, what it does to people is not. For some, pain becomes a prison that traps them in bitterness and despair. For others, it becomes the very fire that forges resilience, compassion, and a deeper sense of direction. The difference lies not in the pain itself, but in how we choose to respond to it. It is easy to ask, why me? When life hurts, that question keeps us in the darkness of victimhood, making us believe that suffering has no meaning. But when we shift the question to, what can this pain teach me? Or, how can I use this to help others? The very thing that once seemed unbearable begins to shine with purpose. Pain, when given perspective, becomes one of the greatest teachers life has to offer. Take the story of a broken potter's clay. When the clay is first shaped, it must endure pressing, stretching, and reshaping. Once it takes form, it is placed into the fire. The fire is hot, uncomfortable, and intense. Yet without the fire, the clay remains fragile, easily crumbled. The fire gives it strength and durability. Our lives are similar. The heat of pain often feels unbearable, but it strengthens us in ways comfort never could. It prepares us for a purpose greater than we imagined. So many people who have endured great suffering have gone on to create incredible change in the world. Their pain became their mission. A person who lost a loved one to illness may dedicate their life to raising awareness and finding cures. Someone who grew up in poverty may use their story to inspire others to rise beyond limitations. The very wounds they once carried become the wellsprings of their contribution. In the pain gives depth to our purpose because it connects us to the struggles of others in ways comfort never can. Think of the lotus. It grows out of mud, but instead of being defined by the dirt, it rises above and blooms in beauty. Your pain is the mud, but your growth can be the lotus. The beauty of your purpose will shine brighter because of the struggles you endured. What once hurt you can become the very reason someone else finds healing. Pain also humbles us. It softens the ego, reminding us that life is fragile and temporary. In that humility, we find compassion for others. We begin to understand that everyone is fighting battles unseen. Our pain can teach us empathy, making us more human, more kind, and more purposeful in how we treat those around us. Of course, transforming pain into purpose does not happen overnight. It requires acceptance, patience, and healing. But once the perspective shifts in the same event that once seemed like a curse begins to look like a calling. Instead of being consumed by anger or regret, we can channel that energy into building, creating, and serving. The truth is, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Suffering is what happens when we allow pain to define us. Purpose is what happens when we allow pain to refine us. Life gives us both the wound and the wisdom, but only when we choose to see it. And when we turn pain into purpose, we not only heal ourselves, we also become a source of light for others, still walking through their own darkness. In a world that constantly glorifies speed and instant results, patience often feels like an outdated virtue. We live in times where everything is at our fingertips: fast food, instant messages, same-day deliveries. And slowly, this expectation creeps into every part of our lives. We expect our dreams to materialize overnight, our struggles to resolve immediately, and our growth to be quick and easy. But life doesn't work on the timeline of our impatience. Real growth, real success, and real transformation require both patience and persistence. Consider a farmer planting seeds in the soil. He does not return the very next day expecting a harvest. He knows that growth has its own rhythm, that nature cannot be rushed. He waters, nurtures, protects the seed, and waits. Days pass without any visible change, and sometimes weeks go by in silence. Yet beneath the soil, something is happening. The seed is taking root. Without those hidden stages, no harvest would ever be possible. The same is true of our lives. Even when nothing seems to be changing on the surface, persistence and patience ensure that something important is unfolding within. The tallest bamboo trees in the world teach us this lesson vividly. For years after being planted, nothing appears above the soil. Farmers water and care for the bamboo year after year, but all they see is bare ground. Then suddenly, after years of seeming stagnation, the bamboo shoots up to incredible heights within weeks. What was happening all that time? The roots were growing deep, creating the foundation strong enough to support rapid growth. Many people quit during those hidden years of preparation because they mistake silence for failure. But patience reveals that growth often happens long before it is visible. Persistence is equally important. Life has a way of testing our resolve. The moment we set our eyes on a goal, obstacles seem to rise in our path. Many interpret those obstacles as signs to give up, but they are really invitations to strengthen our commitment. The difference between those who succeed and those who it is not that one faces fewer challenges. It is that one keeps walking even when the road is hard. Think of water carving its way through stone. It does not cut through because of power, but because of persistence. Drop by drop, over time, it shapes the unshakable. Your efforts may feel small, but consistency transforms them into something unstoppable. The book you wish to write begins with a page each day. The fitness you desire is built through daily choices. The peace you long for comes from consistent habits of the mind. Nothing monumental is achieved without persistence. Patience and persistence are like the wings of a bird. Both are needed to soar. Patience teaches us to wait without giving up hope. Persistence teaches us to act without losing faith. Together, they help us navigate the seasons of delay, rejection, and difficulty that inevitably come on the path of growth. Too often, people quit when they are just a few steps away from their breakthrough. They let impatience whisper that it's not working, when in reality, they were closer than they realized. Growth asks us to trust the unseen, to keep sowing even when the soil looks barren, and to believe that every effort is building toward something greater. Life is not a race. It is a journey. The flowers that bloom too quickly fade just as fast. But those that take time to grow endure the storms. Patience allows you to enjoy the process, and persistence ensures that you never stop moving forward. With these two as your companions, there is no mountain too high, no dream too distant, and no struggle too enduring that you cannot rise above it.